In today's video, we're going to show you what kill zones are and how you can use these to protect your prepper retreat location or your community against marauders should SHTF happen, right after the channel intro. Remember, you are ultimately responsible for protecting yourself and for providing for yourself. Live your life with honor and integrity, and always be the wolf hunter. Don't be the sheep, and never be the wolf. Folks, if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and comment below with your thoughts, and please share this video by clicking on the icon, and please hit the little bell to be notified whenever I release a video. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel, as many more videos on prepping and self-defense in the courts. In my last video, I discussed on how to protect your prepper retreat from attackers. I talked about probing shots from marauders. But in this video, I'm going to discuss using kill zones, which would allow you to force the enemy to make a better target of himself, to slow him down in an area where your firepower or your other defensive options will be the most effective for you and the most devastating for the attackers or the marauders. Now, before I go even further, please remember that you never want to fight an invading enemy at your mailbox or even at the very outskirts of your community. You want to fight them well before they reach your front door. And again, for this video, I've never served in the military. All of my knowledge or experiences come from 16 years in the police department and training with men who have served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, with having said that, let's set the stage for this video and why you may want to learn a little more about tactics and why you want to use them. So let's say, for the sake of this video, that a total SHTF event has happened. Maybe an EMP has occurred, or maybe a worldwide pandemic or something else has happened like that. Anyway, society as we know it has collapsed, and the rule of law has pretty much collapsed along with it. So now you found yourself in a prepper retreat group or in a community or in a small town that has banded together in hopes of surviving. And with the collapse of the rule of law, and with the risk of outsiders possibly carrying infectious diseases, or with the risk of marauders wanting to come and take what your community or group has, your group of survivors will have to take steps to protect what you have. And this is where using some basic tactics will come into play. Now, the first option I will talk about will be funneling your enemy into a smaller area by using obstacles. By doing this, you're making him and the rest of his group easier targets to hit. And these obstacles can be either natural obstacles or man-made obstacles. Just for a simple example, if you're defending a road that travels to your community, and at one point that road has steep ridges or rough terrain that runs along each side of that road, basically an area of that road that pretty much forces people to stay on the road itself. When you have terrain like that on both sides of the road, it's usually a pretty safe bet that the enemy, especially if they're traveling by vehicles or by group, that the enemy will probably take the road because it's much easier to travel or haul equipment on. So by choosing a point in a road that forces the enemy to be grouped together, this presents an opportunity to you because the enemy will be much closer together, and this makes them an easier target for you. This way you won't have a wider field of fire, a wider area for the enemy to be able to spread across over, spacing themselves out and possibly using cover or concealment to make themselves harder targets to hit. So this is just one option when choosing a protection point on a road that's leading towards the community that you are wanting to protect. And when building or using defensive obstacles closer to your retreat, you can also construct obstacles that slow down the attackers. And please excuse my poorly drawn map here. I'm not trying to be fancy, I'm just trying to get this point across. Let's say there's parts of the terrain that are leading up to your retreat or your community that is made up of some natural barriers such as marshy areas or small lakes or areas that contain really thick and thorny brush. If a group decides to attack your retreat or your community, they're more than likely going to choose to traverse the easier areas that don't take them through these natural obstacles, because they're going to want to cover as much area as quickly as possible so that they can reach their next point of cover. They don't want to get stuck sludging through thick mud or through thick thorny bush, because that'll make them an easy target for a longer period of time. So it's these areas of easy travel that you want to use against the attackers, by putting obstacles like barbed wire or rope that's designed to trip or tangle up your attackers. Now the picture that I'm showing is a scaled down version of what could be used. If you use this tactic, these posts and wire would stretch the whole distance between the actual barriers and not just the couple feet shown in this picture. So while the natural or man-made obstacles funnel the attackers into what they think is an area that they can cover distance in quickly, they then cause the attackers to hit these obstacles that you made that will slow them down, which keeps them in your field of fire for a longer time, keeping them easy targets for longer, and letting you cause more casualties on their side. Now the tangling obstacle was just an example that I used because they can be made with barbed wire or strong rope, and they can be made fairly cheaply, but you can use anything in your imagination. Now I'm purposely not going to be going into other types of obstacles or booby traps that you could use to slow or injure attackers, because I don't want to give anybody any reason to believe that I'm suggesting to do something that's currently illegal across much of the United States right now. But you use your own imagination. And obviously I need to urge you to stay within whatever laws your area has. But again, whatever type of obstacles that you can use to cause the attacker to have to slow down while he either tries cutting through those obstacles or are just plain causing him to trip and fall or having to crawl under them. But these types of obstacles may help you be more successful because you're keeping him in your kill zone longer. The zone where he's out in the open and remaining an easy target for you, and where you can fire at him while you're behind your good cover. Now I would warn you against purposely making obstacles that attackers could use as cover. And that's why using wire or rope or other things like that are such great things to make obstacles with, because they slow the attackers down without allowing them cover from your fire. Now let's revisit protecting the roadways leading up to your prepper retreat or your community that's banded together to keep dangerous outsiders out. Obviously, your community will utilize roadblocks, most of the time made up of broken down vehicles or of the vehicles owned by the people who are manning those roadblocks. But what most people don't think about is about possibly using a secondary roadblock made up of broken down vehicles before your initial actual roadblock that's manned. But instead of using these spare broken down vehicles to completely block the road with the secondary roadblock, you can space these vehicles just far enough apart to allow a vehicle to slowly traverse its way through them before reaching your actual manned roadblock. So the purpose of this first roadblock is not to actually stop any vehicles from making their way through them, but to force any vehicles that are approaching your actual manned roadblock to have to drive really slow. This does two things. It gives you more time to decide if someone who's approaching your roadblock is friend or foe, and then if you do decide that they are foe, then you're again keeping them in your kill zone for a longer time, allowing you to maximize your damage to them before they actually reach your actual manned roadblock. Now some people will ask, why even allow the first roadblock to even allow vehicles through it to begin with? And all I can really say is, even if you are trying to close your community or prepper retreat completely off from outsiders, there's always going to be a ton of reasons why people may have to come and go out of your area. There may be scavenging missions or visiting medical personnel. Who knows? This is just something to keep in mind in case it's ever needed for you. Now, some warnings that I need to give you regarding using roadblocks of any kind. An important thing to remember or to consider about them is that you typically want them to be seen from a distance by whoever is approaching it. You don't want to surprise an unknowing person that's flying down a street by a hidden roadblock that you've put up on the other side of a blind curve or at the bottom of a steep decline in the road. You want people that are non-enemies to be able to see your roadblock and be prepared to slow down or to stop for it. You don't want to risk having an unsuspecting innocent person to be surprised by your roadblock and crash into it. This may cause confusion on your group's part. Your group may think it's an attacker and may open fire on that car. And all the while, it's just some poor schmuck that got caught by surprise by your poorly planned roadblock. So folks, please know that I'm not trying to pass myself off as some great military strategist. All I want to do is help expose some of the novice preppers out there, people that are new to this, but expose them that there are some tactics that can be used to protect an area that you and your prepper group need to keep unwanted people out of. And don't just stop at this video. There's a ton of information out there on tactics that you should look up to get even more ideas than what this video showed. And the book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, is a good start. And in order to keep this video at a more reasonable amount of time, I only talked about a few tactics that you can use against an attacking force. So what I'm going to ask of my subscribers who have good knowledge on tactics and strategies, to please comment below with your favorite tactics or some of the ingenious ideas that you've had on defending your community. And if you're one of those people that are new to all of this, then please read the comments left below by those who have had a lot of experience using them. Anyways folks, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night. Find me on Facebook under Ethical Preparedness page. Just use the terms Ethical Preparedness page in Facebook search box.